In a modest dwelling on the outskirts of the Stoic city of Virtus lived a woman named Aurelia, who was with child. The joy of impending motherhood was clouded by her tendency to overthink, which had only intensified with her pregnancy. Her mind was a relentless whirlwind of what-ifs and maybes, robbing her of the serenity she so desperately craved. Aurelia's husband, Cassius, watched with a heavy heart as his wife succumbed to her worries. He remembered the words of the great Stoic philosopher Seneca, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Determined to ease her burden, he sought the counsel of the wise old Stoic Maximus. Maximus was a man of few words, but each was a seed of wisdom. He listened intently as Cassius relayed his wife's struggles. "The mind can be a fertile ground for anxiety," Maximus acknowledged, "but it can also be cultivated with tranquility. You must remind Aurelia that she does not bear this child alone. She is surrounded by love and support." Armed with this insight, Cassius returned home, where he found Aurelia pacing the garden, her brow furrowed with worry. "My love," Cassius began, taking her hands into his, "your thoughts are like the wild vines in our garden. Without care, they grow untamed and entangle your spirit."
Click subscriber to this channel to get more profound Stoic wisdom.
Aurelia's eyes met his, a silent plea within them. "But how do I tame them? They are so persistent." Cassius smiled gently. "We shall tend to them together as we do our garden. We will nurture the thoughts that bring you peace and prune away those that serve no purpose." Though comforted by his words, the anxiety within Aurelia persisted. Each kick from the life within her seemed to bring a fresh wave of concern for the future. As her due date approached, the city of Virtus found itself threatened by a neighboring state, casting a shadow of uncertainty over its citizens. The men prepared to defend their city, leaving the women and children bracing for what may come. One day, as Aurelia visited the marketplace, the tension turned to chaos. Sounds of an impending attack echoed through the streets, sending the people into a frenzy. In the turmoil, Aurelia was separated from her companions, her mind ensnared by fear. Her breaths came quick and shallow, and she felt the stirrings of labor. Alone and amidst panic, she sought refuge in the Temple of Virtus, where she found herself in the presence of the statue of Athena, the embodiment of wisdom and courage. There, in the quiet sanctum of the temple, as the distant clamor of war rang out, Aurelia was confronted with the ultimate test of her resolve. In the temple, surrounded by the stoic calm of marble gods, Aurelia's labor pains grew more intense. The temple, usually a place of quiet reflection, now echoed with the sounds of her distress. As the contractions quickened, so did her thoughts. Aurelia's mind raced with visions of a future filled with peril for her child, a world where every shadow held a threat, every choice a potential misstep. The overthinking that had plagued her throughout her pregnancy now threatened to overwhelm her at this critical moment. It was then that an elderly priestess named Theodora entered the temple. Her presence was like a balm to the chaotic energy that filled the space. She moved to Aurelia's side, her eyes reflecting a lifetime of knowledge. "Do not let your thoughts cast a shadow over the birth of your child," Theodora spoke with a voice as calm as the eye of a storm. "Focus on the present, on the strength that lies within you." "But how?" Aurelia gasped between contractions. "How do I find peace in such a world?" Theodora took Aurelia's hand, guiding her breathing to a steady rhythm. "By accepting what is within your power and surrendering what is not. This is the essence of our Stoic teachings. You cannot control the war outside, but you can control your response to it, your inner citadel." The wisdom of Theodora's words cut through the fog of Aurelia's anxiety. The Stoics believed in embracing what life presented, in distinguishing between what one could control and what one could not. As the sounds of the outside world faded into the background, Aurelia found her center. With each breath, she envisioned herself as a fortress, impervious to the chaos around her. She focused on the life within her, ready to greet the world. When the moment of birth arrived, it was not fear that filled Aurelia, but a profound strength. Her child came into the world not with the cry of war, but with the sound of a new beginning, a testament to life's resilience. Cassius, who had been defending the city, returned to find his wife cradling their newborn son. In his eyes shone a pride deeper than any words could convey. "You were right, Cassius," Aurelia whispered, her overthinking silenced by the profound realization of her own power. "Our minds are gardens, and mine has bloomed with courage I never knew I possessed." The attack on Virtus was thwarted, leaving the city more united than ever. Aurelia's story, the tale of a mother who overcame her fears to bring life into a world fraught with uncertainty, became a beacon of inspiration. Aurelia's journey through the labyrinth of her own thoughts to the clarity of Stoic wisdom teaches us a profound lesson on overthinking. It reminds us that while we cannot control external events, we can cultivate our internal responses. By recognizing the power within to focus on the present and on what we can control, we can find peace amidst chaos. Aurelia's triumph over her fears is a testament to the Stoic belief that the mind is indeed a fortress, and that within its walls we hold the power to shape our experience of life.
The second story, The Voyage of Virtus. In the small coastal village of Harmonia, there lived a young boy named Felix. His heart was as wide as the ocean, and his curiosity as deep. However, Felix was afflicted with a mind that raced like the swift currents, always aflutter with thoughts and what-ifs. Felix's father, a seasoned fisherman named Elias, watched his son grow more entangled in the nets of his own overthinking. Elias knew the sea and the ways of the Stoics, believing that life, much like the sea, was not to be controlled but to be navigated with wisdom. "Felix," Elias said one evening as they mended their nets, "why do you let a storm of thoughts trouble your mind when the sea is calm?" "I fear the future, father," Felix confessed. "What if I am not strong enough to face the challenges ahead?" Elias placed a gentle hand on his son's shoulder. "Remember, my boy, it is not the seas we encounter that define us, but the manner in which we sail them." Felix pondered his father's words, but the tempest within his mind did not subside. He worried about the storms they might encounter, the fish they might not catch, and countless other uncertainties. One day, as Felix and Elias set out to sea, the skies betrayed no sign of treachery. Yet Felix's heart was not at ease. His thoughts churned like the tides, each wave a worry of what might go wrong. As they sailed, the weather took a sudden turn. Dark clouds amassed above, and the sea roared with an impending wrath. Elias remained steadfast at the helm, but Felix was paralyzed by fear, his overthinking reaching a feverish peak. "This is it," Felix cried out. "All my fears are coming true." Elias, gripping the rudder with practiced hands, turned to his son. "This is the moment to apply our Stoic teachings. We cannot wish away the storm, Felix, but we can control our response to it." "But how can I be calm when all I can think of is disaster?" Felix shouted over the roar of the wind. "Focus on the present task, not on the uncertain future. Steer the boat with me, pull the sails, secure the nets. Action is the remedy to overthinking," Elias instructed. Together, they worked in tandem, their actions a dance with the forces of nature. Felix found that with each task he completed, the grip of his anxious thoughts loosened. As they navigated through the tempest, Felix's fears began to dissipate, replaced by a newfound sense of clarity and purpose. The storm outside raged, but within the confines of their boat, there was a center of calm. Just as quickly as it had begun, the storm abated, leaving the sea around them a mirror once more. Felix looked at his father, a sense of awe and gratitude in his eyes. Aelius smiled, knowing that the true lesson had been imparted not through words, but through experience. In the aftermath of the storm, Felix found that the sea had transformed both outside and within him. The tranquility that followed the tempest was mirrored by a newfound peace in his thoughts. He had confronted his fears in the throes of the storm and emerged not as a boy overwhelmed by overthinking, but as a young Stoic, aware of the power of the present moment. The seasons turned, and with them, Felix grew in both age and wisdom. He became known in Harmonia not just as Aelius's son, but as a young man of serene disposition, even in the face of adversity. Yet, the true test of his stoic resolve came one summer's day, when a merchant ship bound for distant shores docked at Harmonia. The captain, a man named Decimus, spoke of a rare opportunity for a young and brave soul to join their voyage. Felix's heart leapt at the chance of adventure, but the old habit of overthinking reared its head once more. The vast and unknown world beyond his village brought a cascade of worries. However, this time, Felix remembered the storm and his father's guidance. He sought Aelius's counsel the night before the ship was to set sail. "Father, I am torn," said Felix, the moonlight casting a silver glow upon their conversation. "I yearn for this journey, but my mind is a storm of doubts once more." Aelius, now grayer than the days of tempest past, looked at his son with eyes that held the stillness of the deep sea. "Felix, you have learned to navigate the storms within you," he said softly. "Carry this wisdom on your journey. Remember, it is not for us to control the voyage, only to ready our sails." Emboldened by his father's words, Felix decided to board the merchant ship the next day. As the vessel set sail, his heart was steady, his mind focused on the horizon. The journey was long and full of challenges. There were days when the wind was a mere whisper and the ship barely moved. There were nights when the waves seemed to conspire to swallow them whole. But Felix kept his father's wisdom close to his heart. One fateful night, as the ship neared the equator, the sea proved its unpredictability once more. A violent storm, unlike any Felix had seen, unleashed its fury upon them. This time, it was Felix who stood firm, guiding the panicked crew. "Focus on what you can control," he urged them, his voice a steady command amidst the howling wind. "Secure the sails, man the pumps. Do not let fear command you." Inspired by Felix's courage, the crew rallied. They worked in unison, and by dawn the storm was behind them, leaving a clear sky that promised fair winds. When Felix returned to Harmonia, he was no longer just a fisherman's son or the young man who had sailed away. He was a beacon of stoic strength, a testament to the power of living in the present and mastering one's thoughts. Felix's journey teaches us that the mind, when left unchecked, can be a vessel adrift on a sea of worries. Yet through stoic wisdom and the discipline of present action, we can anchor ourselves. We can learn that overthinking is like a storm that passes, and in its wake, we find clarity and strength. Felix's transformation from a boy paralyzed by his thoughts to a man who commands them reminds us that within each of us lies the power to still the waters of our mind, one stoic choice at a time. The third story, the Labyrinth of Virtue. In the sprawling city of Megara, where the clamor of the marketplace often drowned out the whispers of wisdom, there lived a person named Alexius. He was a dedicated student of philosophy, eager to walk the path of virtue as the Stoics of old. Yet, in the pursuit of a virtuous life, Alexius found himself lost, as if in a labyrinth, his thoughts a relentless adversary in the quest for serenity. His mentor, an old and respected Stoic named Cassius, observed Alexius's turmoil. Cassius, with a countenance as serene as dawn, had walked the path of virtue for decades and found peace within its bounds. "Alexius," Cassius began one day as they walked through the agora, "I see your stride falters. What burdens do you carry?" Alexius, with a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of the world, replied, "Master Cassius, I seek virtue, but the more I seek, the more I am ensnared by my own thoughts. What if I am not strong enough? What if I fail to embody the teachings?" Cassius led Alexius to a quiet corner of the agora away from the bustling crowd. "Consider the archer, Alexius," Cassius said. "He aims at the target and does his best to hit the mark. Yet, once the arrow has flown, it is beyond his control. It is the same with our pursuit of virtue. We must aim and let go, not overthink our aim." "But how can I not worry about the outcome when it is the measure of my virtue?" Alexius asked, his brow furrowed in concern. "The outcome is not within our power. Only our intentions and actions are," Cassius explained. "Focus on the present, on being virtuous now, and let the future unfold as it will." One day, as fate would have it, a great fire broke out in Megara. Alexius found himself amidst the chaos, with the opportunity to assist those in danger. Here was the test of virtue he had longed for, but his overthinking paralyzed him. "I must save the scrolls of Zeno and Chrysippus from the flames," he thought. "But then, what if the fire consumes me? What if I fail and lose all respect?" As the fire raged, Cassius arrived, moving with purpose and clarity. He saw Alexius rooted to the spot and approached him. "The scrolls can be rewritten, but a life cannot be relieved," Cassius shouted over the roar of the flames. "Your thoughts are the smoke that blinds you. Act, Alexius. Save the living." This moment was the turning point for Alexius. He realized that his overthinking was a veil that obscured the very virtue he sought. With a burst of clarity, he sprang into action, helping to evacuate the young and the elderly, his thoughts no longer a cacophony, but a silent resolve. As the fire was finally quenched, Alexius stood amidst the ashes, not lost, but found. In the days following the fire, Alexius became a symbol of courage in Megara. The people he had helped spoke of his bravery, and yet, within him, the struggle with overthinking persisted. The event had shown him a path through the labyrinth of his mind, but he had not yet reached its end. Cassius took note of this and decided it was time for Alexius to embark on a journey, not of the body, but of the soul. "To conquer the mind's labyrinth, one must face its minotaur," Cassius said. "You must confront the source of your overthinking." They sat amidst the ruins where the fire had raged, a place where destruction had given way to new beginnings. "Master, how do I find this minotaur?" Alexius inquired, his voice a mix of trepidation and resolve. Cassius handed him a small, intricate labyrinth pendant. "This represents your mind. At its center lies your fear, the beast you must confront. Meditate upon this, and when you are ready, we shall speak of what you discover." Alexius took the pendant, and for many nights he meditated, turning the labyrinth over in his hands, delving deeper into his own psyche. In the silent hours before dawn, he finally came upon a realization. The Minotaur was his fear of imperfection, his dread of not living up to the Stoic ideal, of failing to be virtuous. Armed with this insight, Alexius returned to Cassius, who was waiting as if he already knew the outcome of his student's introspection. "Master, I have discovered my Minotaur," Alexius declared. "It is my fear of failing in my pursuit of virtue." Cassius nodded, his eyes reflecting the wisdom of the stars above. "And how will you defeat this beast, Alexius?" "I must accept that I can only strive for virtue, not attain it perfectly," Alexius replied. "I must focus on the present, doing what is right, here and now, and let go of the outcome." "Indeed," Cassius affirmed, "like the Stoics before us, we aim to be like Sisyphus, content in our effort. Though the boulder may roll back down the hill, we must love our fate, amor fati, and embrace what life presents us." The true test of Alexius's revelation came not long after. A plague struck Megara, bringing with it fear and uncertainty. People looked to Alexius, the one who had braved the fire, for guidance. This time, Alexius did not hesitate. He organized aid for the sick, comfort for the grieving, and was a pillar of strength in the community. His actions were not the result of overthinking, but of the Stoic wisdom that had taken root in his heart. When the plague passed, Alexius had become a beacon of Stoic virtue, not because he was without fear or doubt, but because he acted despite them. The story of Alexius teaches us that overthinking is like navigating a labyrinth, with fear as its minotaur. The Stoic path is not about reaching perfection, but embracing the effort, focusing on the present, and doing what is right. By accepting that some outcomes are beyond our control, we can concentrate on what is within our power, our intentions, and our actions. Alexius's transformation from a victim of his thoughts to a master of them shows us that the key to escaping the labyrinth of overthinking lies in the Stoic practice of amor fati, loving our fate, and using reason to guide our actions no matter the circumstances.